So I watched the Anna Nicole Smith documentary and I thought I would do a quick review on it. So I stumbled upon an article from Daniel Birkhead, I think his name was, where he had made some statements about the documentary that he pretty much felt like it was trash. Not his words, just me saying that. It was pitched to him as something that was going to be I guess positive towards her. Not that she was an angel, but just to explore her life and give a true depiction of her. However, it turned into something else, and he pretty much had withdrawn his participation in the documentary. He said that he didn't provide any videos or photos or anything like that because he felt like it, the intent and how it was pitched to him initially was not how it was going. He had also mentioned that a lot of the people who were interviewed in the documentary was people that he never even knew during the 2.5 years that he dated um, Anna Nicole Smith. So he didn't really feel like, pretty much he didn't feel like they were credible. Not him saying that, but that's just me. Like, where did these people come from? They were nowhere around, and why wouldn't he have known about them during the time that he was with her? So I decided that I would check it out. Now, there are a couple of things that I didn't really know about her, but of course I didn't follow her. I saw tidbits here and there in the news about her, but I didn't never really looked at her or what she did closely. Now, one of the things that I found out in the documentary was that, the media had displayed her relationship and marriage to John Marshall as one of her being a gold digger. But it seemed as though she genuinely cared for him and him for her. Although they were married, it didn't come off to me as a romantic type of thing. She had mentioned how he wanted to take care of her and make sure she was okay and her son was taken care of. And I really believe that that was true. He wanted to set her up and make sure that she would be okay. So it seemed more of a father-daughter type of thing. And that would make a lot of sense because she didn't grow up with her dad and she genuinely wanted a father figure. And later on in the documentary where they showed where she had finally met her father after years and years and years, you could see that she was so, so, so happy. And she's like, this is my daddy, this is my daddy. She was so excited. So you could tell that she had a yearning for a father figure in her life that had been lacking growing up. Now, another thing that I learned, and I'm just saying based off what the documentary is saying, not off of anything else, was that I thought when they had mentioned that she had died of related to drugs, I thought it was probably recent years that this has happened where she got addicted to drugs. But one of the ladies who were interviewed, I can't remember her name, she had worked with her in the strip club. I'm going to call her her friend from the strip club because I can't remember her name. But she had mentioned that she started abusing prescription medication after she had gotten her boob job because the pain was so, debilitating after she got the implants. And so from there on out, she would regularly take various prescription drugs. So that's one thing that I didn't know about her. Another thing that I didn't know was that she was married previously to John Marshall. I know she had a son, but I didn't know she was actually married. She was married at 17, and it was to somebody, the way that the characters were talking about this was that she, as a teenager, felt like everybody wanted her, and everybody really liked her, most of the guys, because she was a pretty girl. But this one guy that she married to was one who she had asked for a ride, and he was like, nah. He refused, and so she's like, wait, what is this? How come this guy doesn't want me to? How come this guy is not jumping at my every word? And so that intrigued her, and that's how they ended up going out. So I didn't know that she was actually married before, and so she was married to that guy, and a part of the reason that was because she was looking to escape from home. She didn't like her mom. And apparently, from what she was telling her friends, was that there was abuse in the home. And so also, it was mentioned, and I think I had seen in the news about the case after John Marshall died about, her disputing, wanting some money or something to that effect. I didn't really follow it closely, but after John Marshall died, she had gone to court because, she said that he had wanted her to get half of his assets. He had promised this to her. However, I just don't know if I believe that, because John Marshall was worth billions of dollars, and he was, how old was he? In his 80s, at the time of his death, or possibly older. So I feel as though being a businessman and having access to attorneys and all that, the same way that he insisted on adopting Daniel and make sure that his attorneys did what he asked, I feel like he would have made sure it was airtight, and preparations were made for her to be able to inherit half of his assets should he pass away, if that were the case. I don't know if I bought that he really wanted that, but I do genuinely believe that he really wanted her taken care of. Now, what was mentioned in the documentary, that over the time that she was with John Marshall, that he had spent or given her, over $11 million, between the house that he had bought her, cars, things, monetary things, material things, and setting her up, to pursue her dream of modeling and all that. It was over $11 million. And so when he had died, she had said that she was broke. Now it's like, how? $11 million by way of John Marshall, plus you're modeling for Gas, you're a Playmate, and then she was dabbling in acting at the time as well. So where's the money? How could you be broke? But it was mentioned in the documentary that she spent frivolously. And so that's how, I guess, a part of the reason, too, that John Marshall's son had stepped in, and he had at one point taken control over his assets, where he couldn't, spend money like he used to on her, because money was just flying out the window pretty much. Also, another thing, they had mentioned how Daniel was taking drugs. One of the so-called friends, they were at a party or something going on at her house, and how Daniel had mentioned that he had taken a methadone pill. I guess it was a pill. And then he was asking for cocaine, and the guy was like, well, you shouldn't be taking this, but then here's cocaine. So it's like, what kind of friends did she have? I know people had mentioned that there was a bunch of enablers as well, but come on, this guy, I don't remember what age they had mentioned that this had happened. But ultimately, though, he had died from a drug overdose or something to that effect. And Anna took it really, really bad, and I can understand that was her son. They were pretty much grew up together, because she had him really, really young. And so she took it really hard. And they had mentioned that when Daniel had died, that, every time she went to sleep, she would see him, and she said that Daniel was calling her and wanted her to be there. So after he died, her drug use kind of increased, because she wanted to see her son, and that's the only way that she could sleep, was to take the drugs. And then, of course, she wanted to take the drugs because she wanted to see Daniel. So, of course, we know that she died shortly after Daniel died, and from pretty much the same thing. It was an accidental drug overdose, because she was taking a bunch of different prescription pills. One thing that I found to be suspicious was the involvement of Howard Stern, because this guy just popped up out of nowhere. And maybe the documentary didn't really do a good job of showing us how Howard came to be in the picture. He just popped up one day and started taking over things, and and it was said that he was enabling her, and he was the drug supplier as well. Now, we know that Anna had gotten pregnant and had Daniel Lynn, the little girl, and she was born like shortly before Daniel had died. Now, after John Marshall had died, and Anna was still grieving, she had a lot going on. She had escaped to the Bahamas, and she had left Daniel behind. And I think around the time Daniel was about 20 or so. And one of the doctors that had mentioned how he was suffering from depression, and he had to see a psychiatrist. And that was around the time that Anna was in the Bahamas. And so I just wonder if that was the best decision for her to be in the Bahamas when her son was having such a hard time. And I don't know if she even knew that this was going on, but I would imagine that she would have known. So that was kind of sad to hear. And I think maybe that could have contributed to, why she took the death so hard. Another thing that was kind of weird was that Dr. Kapoor had prescribed her methadone, which was one of the drugs that she was abusing, and she couldn't get the prescription filled in the Bahamas, so he had made sure the prescription made its way to the Bahamas. But at the time that he prescribed this, Anna was actually pregnant with Daniel Lynn. I found it to be weird that a doctor would prescribe methadone to a pregnant woman. So, that kind of raised my eyebrow on that one as well. I didn't know. That just seemed weird and unsafe to me. So we know that shortly after Daniel died, she took it really, really hard. And, she passed away shortly after, which was that was really sad and tragic. What I found also weird was that Howard Stern, he was supposed to be an attorney, right? And so he claimed that he was the father of Daniel Lynn, the baby. However, Daniel Birkhead had said he believed that he was the father as well. So you would think that, if there's two people claiming to be the father, then somebody would have a DNA test done. And so that wasn't done. I don't know if that was done, but he kept claiming it was a dispute as far as who the father was. But why wouldn't you just take the DNA test? A normal person would do that if they were not sure who the father was. And it seemed that wasn't done. He just wanted to. That was a little suspicious to me, because a normal person would do that just to make sure that it's your child and you're taking the responsibility for a child that's biologically yours. But it seemed to me that maybe he was wanting to be the father so he could have access to, her inner circle or whatever else. It seemed like there was ulterior motives to me with that. So, there was a few things in here, that were new to me because I didn't follow her throughout her life. And so the documentary I felt like it just drove you to a cliff and just pulled the emergency brake, because after they mentioned that she had died, then it came up with these blurbs on the screen about how the case against Howard Stern, he was charged or something like that, and then the case was dismissed. The case against Dr. Kapoor was dismissed, and then how Daniel was revealed to be the biological father, and how Daniel Lynn didn't inherit anything from the John Marshall estate. So I feel like it was just rushed, and then in the end they just dropped some bombs at the end that could have been like, they could have spent more time on elaborating on these things as far as how they happened. Because why was the case against Howard Stern dropped? Why wasn't Dr. Kapoor in trouble for prescribing, the methadone? And well, they had mentioned in the little blurb that they had determined that it didn't contribute to her death, but I feel like they could have explored methadone usage on a pregnant person and whether it was appropriate for that to be prescribed. And then also, there wasn't really much about Daniel Birkhead, and I know that he didn't want to participate, but I'm sure they could have put more information in there about him and how they came to be, and then more details about about Daniel Lynn not inheriting anything. I guess the appeal that she had going with the John Marshall estate died with her, and maybe that's why she didn't inherit anything. But I feel like they could have gone more in detail about things that they just dropped a blurb at the end about. The documentary seems to be just rushed and put together, and it came off a little bit gossipy too, because I don't know, it just came off a little bit rushed and thrown together. So while I did learn a few things, I feel like if you were a person who followed Anna Nicole Smith, or you were up to in the know about celebrity gossip, I would suggest that you skip this one. It wouldn't be very insightful for you. So anyway, that's all I have for today. If you have watched this one, let me know your thoughts on it. I did learn a few things here or there, but I expected more from it, honestly. All right, that's all. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks.